ask your parents, check for returns, marry well, do what you have to get tickets, because these are going to be the best shows of the year. Oh my god, hey, welcome back to my theatre themed YouTube channel. My name is Mickey Joe and I am just obsessed with all things theatre. I am a professional theatre critic and pundit and content creator here on social media, and today I'm going to be letting you know the shows... No, did I say knows the shows? Let me try that one more time. Today, I am going to be letting you know about the shows I am most looking forward to in the year 2024. So there's a siren outside of my... Why is there a siren? The roads are flooded. How are you driving? Is that why there's a siren? Maybe that's why there's a siren. Doesn't seem to be getting further. Is it near? Am I in danger here? Recently, I told you about my favorite and least favorite shows from 2023. Now we are looking to the future, like 1/3 of Dickensian Christmas Ghosts, and talking about the shows I'm most looking forward to in the UK, specifically in 2024. I'm going to try and do another one of these videos talking about the shows that are coming to the US, but unsurprisingly, I have a lot more insight about what's really going to be good here in the UK. Now, the amount I know about each of these shows varies. Some I have seen before, some I have heard great word of mouth about, some I know staggeringly little about, but I will tell you why they're exciting me nonetheless. Now, if you enjoyed today's video, or if you want to stay abreast of good theatre recommendations and you don't want to forget about my channel, make sure you are subscribed. There are going to be reviews of hopefully all of these shows coming throughout the year as and when each of them opens, which will tell you even more about what I thought of them and whether or not they are worth booking tickets to. There are also a bunch of shows currently running in the West End and on Broadway that I've already reviewed here on my channel. Go and check out those after you've watched this video. And for even more stagey content, you can find me on other social media platforms. I am Mickey Joe Theatre on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the app formerly known as Twitter, and I will be sharing even more reviews and theatre-themed thoughts on those platforms. For now, I am so excited to tell you about the shows I am looking forward to this year. Let's go! So full disclosure, I tried to get this list down to something sensible like top 20 or top 10. That didn't work, so instead I have sorted everything into 8 neat categories. Beginning with my favourite and yours, new musical theatre. So there are many new musicals coming to the UK this year, including one that I think could be absolutely huge. It is beginning performances this month at the Old Vic Theatre in London, officially opening for press in February, making it just about part of this year's Olivier Awards season, but one of the last entrants to this season. I am talking about Just for One Day. If you have no idea what this is a musical based on the Live Aid concert. And if you have no idea what that was, it was this massive fundraising collaboration where all of the biggest music artists of the time back in the 80s, but you know, fear has entered my mind that I'm historically misquoting. I wasn't alive, let's be realistic. Live Aid, 1985, slap bang in the middle, there you go. Obviously it was the 80s, what is the matter with me? But it's a musical version of that, and though we know little about this show, we know that it's going to be an authentic and earnest retelling of the concert that also includes non-white perspectives. We don't want this to just be a white saviour narrative. This has all of the makings of a British come from away. This event was huge. Live Aid had international reach, but is remembered more fondly and with more nostalgia, I think, in the UK. And if there's any mark of quality, it's this. There are so many of the UK's biggest producers all collaborating on this project. Jamie Wilson is producing this show, Sonia Friedman is involved in this show. There are many big names attached to this. There are many big names in the cast. In the years since people have stopped trying to make the British Hamilton, I think they have now started trying to make the British come from away, and this could be it. Next, we have a show I already know that I love, and I cannot wait to see it again. I'm like itching to go and see this again. I am talking about Jack Godfrey's new musical, 42 Balloons. So if you liked Babies, this has the same composer. This had a few concert presentations at the Vaudeville Theatre, I'm gonna say last year before last? Time has lost all meaning. But 42 Balloons is a fantastic new musical all about the true story of a man named Larry who decided that he wanted to fly around in the sky by tying a bunch of industrial balloons to a lawn chair. This really happened, and Jack Godfrey has made a musical about it. The highlight of which is the score. It's a fantastic score that playfully pays homage to various songs of the 80s, but genuinely some of the best writing for musical theatre I've heard in a very long time. I'm recommending this to just about everyone. 42 Balloons, great show. I can't tell you why. It's one of those that defies explanation, but it's just fantastic. Now, this is going to be playing for a month at the Lowry in Salford Salford, which is a terrific space, between the 18th of April and the 19th of May. Hopefully it's going to go on to have a future life from there, but I would advise you to get tickets to that run. It's that good. Another new musical I'm very excited about, In Clay, upstairs at the Gatehouse. So I saw this at the Vault Festival. I then got to be part of a concert version where they were just showcasing the material. On that night, they announced the run at the Gatehouse, which was very fun. I got to chair a post-show Q&A discussion with the cast and creatives at that stage, which I asked to do because I was so excited about the show. It's this kind of Sunday in the Park with George-esque musical about a potter, that is to say someone who makes pots, a ceramist, is that the word? Anyway, it's about this early 20th century artist named Marie Bertha Kazan, and she, in anticipation of a visit from a former friend, is reflecting on her artistic career. But it's one of those shows, like Sunday in the Park with George isn't really about pointillism or the painting, it's about the artistic process. It speaks to just about anyone who is creative, especially anyone who works in a creative field, whether that is pottery, or whether that is another kind of visual art, or whether that's songwriting. The music by Jack Miles, the lyrics that he's co-written with Rebecca Simmons, who's also written the book, it's fantastic. It's just glorious sounding. It is a little familiar of Sondheim, which is high praise. It's not poppy like a lot of trendy musical theatre scores you're hearing these days, but it's ornate and it's beautiful and it's meaningful, and I just love it. So that's taking place at Upstairs at the Gatehouse, which, as its name suggests, is a wonderful off-West End London venue above a pub between the 13th of March and the 7th of April. Next category is new musicals, but new musicals that are transferring from Broadway. So we are very lucky, after a little while of waiting for Broadway shows to come across the pond, we are finally getting some very exciting transfers in the year 2024. The first of which is going to be a London return for the musical Hadestown. Now I'm calling this a Broadway transfer because Hadestown was here before at the National Theatre. I saw it there, I didn't love it there. It then got further developed in the journey between London and the Walter Kerr Theatre on Broadway. I got to see it there and I thought it was fantastic. It makes so much more sense in that space. It was so much more atmospheric, but also the work that they had done to further develop the show was very valuable. And it's that version of the show that's going to be transferring to the Lyric Theatre in the West End from February. And just like shows like Hamilton and Come From Away and Waitress infused the West End with new energy, I think Hadestown is just what London needs. We have rising star Grace Hodgett Young playing Eurydice. She has just finished an acclaimed run of Sunset Boulevard, where she was playing Betty Schaefer, her first job out of drama school, may I add. She's going to be returning to that role when Sunset Boulevard goes to Broadway, but between now and then, she's going to be in Hadestown. I don't know how long she's going to be in the show. I would wager about 6 months, so I would suggest you go and see it, and go and see it fast. We also have Don Alfin opposite her as Orpheus. We have Zachary James as Hades. We have Gloria Onitri as Persephone, returning to the role that she understudied when the show was at the National Theatre. We have Melanie LaBarry as Hermes, a role that she manifested for herself on social media. All of these performers, I got to see them performing at the show's press launch, which I believe I've also uploaded here on my channel. You can go and check that one out as well. I was so impressed by all of these performances. I'm really excited to see them all in Hadestown. After that, we are going to be having MJ the Musical, which many people have said is currently the best show on Broadway. I've been avoiding seeing this on Broadway deliberately, despite the acclaim, because I wanted to wait and see it in the West End, specifically because I heard great things about the performance of Tony Award-winning star Miles Frost. He's going to be transferring with the show. He's going to be playing the role of Michael Jackson when it opens at the Prince Edward Theatre. Again, I don't know how long he will be with the show, so keep an eye out on news, but potentially this may be another one that you might want to go and see earlier on in its run, because I have heard sensational things about him. I mean, he won the Tony Award, for crying out loud. I've heard the way that they build these numbers and the way that they utilize dance choreography in this show. I've heard it's just fantastic. So opinions about Michael Jackson as an individual notwithstanding, and I've never really hugely related to his music. He's never been one of my favorite artists. I know he's hugely acclaimed and very beloved by many people. I am excited because I've just heard that this is a thrilling piece of theatre, and that's what I'm into. And then later this year, one of the most anticipated Broadway transfers in recent memory, we are finally getting Mean Girls. A show that I will say splits opinion, and I'm very interested to see what version of Mean Girls it is that we are getting, because this has had further development even since it was on Broadway. the US National Tour made changes to the show's material. Further changes have been made for the film adaptation that is about to be released in cinemas. Very excited for that, but also very intrigued to see how that affects the West End arrival of the show. I feel like whatever the show becomes in the West End, that's going to be like the definitive version of Mean Girls that they're done tinkering with. And for shows like Legally Blonde, they actually went on to have more success in the UK than they did on Broadway. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mean Girls does better here than it did in New York. I have heard some exciting rumours about the casting that obviously I am not allowed to tell you about yet. But if you're a fan of the film, if you're a fan of musicals of this genre, if you like shows like Heathers, you already know that you are going to love Mean Girls. Book yourself a ticket to go and see Mean Girls. I believe they're doing Friday matinees, so if you're an international tourist visiting the UK, that means you can fit even more shows into your stay, because not many shows do a Friday matinee. It's that or Book of Mormon. Now I want to pivot slightly and talk about some transferring plays. Now, this first show I am just thrilled about because, devastatingly and foolishly, I missed it in 2023, and so many people said it was one of the best things they'd seen all year. I am talking about the debut play from Ryan Calais Cameron titled For Black Boys Who Have Considered Suicide When the Hue Gets Too Heavy. Inspired by the play For Coloured Girls Who Have Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough, this ran at the Apollo Theatre last year. It had a sold-out run and is going to be returning to the West End with a 9-week run at the Garrick Theatre from the end of February. Casting has yet to be confirmed, but like I said, this got such incredibly strong word of mouth, I was gutted to have missed it. I'm absolutely going to be making sure I see it at the Garrick. A play transfer that is currently running in London right now, and I'm going to be seeing later this week, is The Motive and the Cue from the National Theatre. Written by Jack Thorne, this is part historical account and part imagined drama as we theatricalise the 1960s rehearsal process shared by actor Richard Burton and director John Gielgud. Directed by Sam Mendes, it stars Johnny Flynn and Mark Gatiss in those roles. I've heard they're both fantastic, with Tuppence Middleton alongside them as Elizabeth Taylor. It got tremendous acclaim at the National Theatre, who by all accounts had a great year in 2023. It has now transferred to the Noel Coward. I was hoping to catch it before Christmas. I didn't quite get the chance, so it's going to be one of the first shows I see in 2024, hopefully setting a fantastic tone. But on the synopsis alone, I am incredibly excited about this play. I'm a little bit obsessed with Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, and it could go on to be a big contender in this year's Olivier Awards, so definitely worth seeing. As is The Picture of Dorian Gray. This is beginning performances later this month. I believe it's officially opening in February at the Theatre Royal Haymarket in London. It stars Succession star Sarah Snook, who I believe just won a Golden Globe. Is that what just happened? Yes, Sarah Snook, who just won a Golden Globe, will be starring in a reconceived one-person version of Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray. This is transferring from Australia, and I will candidly say I raised both of my eyebrows when the casting for this was announced. You know, this is Oscar Wilde, a historic gay writer. This work was used as evidence during his conviction for then criminalised homosexuality because of its overt themes, and so I thought Sarah Snook starring in a one-person version of this, I did not understand the concept. And in truth I still don't, because I haven't seen the show. However, I don't know if I've ever had so many messages, emails, comments from people telling me this is one of the best things they've ever seen. Not of the year, ever. This production has sensational word of mouth. I'm hearing such great things about the way that this is brought to the stage and all of the direction. I'm so excited. I know very little and I'm planning to keep it that way, but I'm really looking forward to seeing this one. And you should be too. Buy a ticket. Go and see Sarah Snook in The Picture of Dorian Gray. Don't sit at the top of the Theatre Royal Haymarket, nobody deserves that. Finally, we have another award-winning new play transferring to the West End after 2 sold-out runs at the Bush Theatre. This is the play Red Pitch. Written by Tyrell Williams, this is going to be opening mid-March at the West End's newest theatre at Soho Place. And while I am sad that The Little Big Things is ending its run there, I'm very excited about this show. Another one that for no good reason I have missed, but it has had 5-star reviews and it has won Stage Debut Awards and Off West End Awards and Evening Standard Awards. Alongside Dear England, it is another play about football. In fact, it won all 5 of the major Best Debut Play Awards. That's a big deal. Another one I don't know much about, but it's running from the 15th of March to the 5th of May, and any excuse to return to the gorgeous theatre that is at Soho Place is a great one. Back to musicals now, because I told you about some shows transferring from Broadway, but there are some other musicals this year transferring from different parts of the UK or even different parts of London. First up, we have the West End transfer of last year's Olivier Award-winning Best New Musical, Standing at the Sky's Edge. I loved this show when it was at the Olivier. I reviewed it last February. Here on my channel, you can go and check out that video. But it rightfully won the Olivier for Best New Musical. I included it in my list of the top shows of the year. I thought it was just fantastic. It combines the rich, atmospheric discography of Richard Hawley with a fantastic script by Chris Bush, and cuts across 3 different time periods as it depicts 3 different generations living in an iconic Sheffield housing development. It's going to be transferring to the Gillian Lynne Theatre in the West End, which I think is just the perfect venue for this show. I'm so excited to just see this set again, to see it on the stage of the Gillian Lynne Theatre. It has a very exciting new cast. Not all of the names that appeared at the Olivier Theatre run will be returning to the show. There are new names like Lauren Redding and Laura Pitt Pulford, Joel Harper-Jackson, Charlene Hector. Great names, great voices. Definitely worth seeing if you didn't catch it the last time, or even if you did. Another critically acclaimed show transferring to a different London venue in 2024 will be Next to Normal, the long-awaited UK premiere of this show that was on Broadway like 15 years ago. I have been waiting for this to come to the UK for so long that I had given up hope it was ever going to happen. But finally, we got a UK premiere at the Donmar Warehouse last summer. That production is going to be transferring to the Wyndham's Theatre in the West End, and I am so excited because I only got to see it once, which was not enough. Fingers crossed we may get some or all of the same cast members, because that production starred Casey Levy, Jamie Parker, Eleanor Worthington Cox, and Jack Wolfe in this perfectly cast quartet. Each and every one of them just gave sensational performances, and I would love it if they returned to the production so I and you can see those performances again. If you haven't seen Next to Normal, it's a show that deals with mental health and the treatment of mental health and the impact that that has on individuals and their families, but it's a rock musical in the wake of Rent or Spring Awakening that profoundly speaks to people. Now, speaking of shows I gave up hope I would ever get to see again, here is a show I saw in Leicester that I didn't think would ever make its way to London, but it is. I am talking about the Curves revival of A Chorus Line. I saw this a few Christmases ago. Now I sat on the front row and I bawled my eyes out. Now, A Chorus Line I think is one of the best musicals ever written. Like Next to Normal, it's a Pulitzer Prize winning musical, which is a rare concept, and it's one of my top 10 favourite musicals of all time. I think it is just a masterpiece. This production, however, is super interesting because it's a non-replica production. That's not something we see often. And critically, it is different choreography. This choreography from rising star Ellen Kane, who has been involved with various theatre productions, but whose work you may perhaps know best from the recent movie adaptation of the musical Matilda. That's right, Ellen Kane is responsible for that viral clip of the Red Beret girl giving you the corridor choreography in Revolting Children, and this is her version of A Chorus Line. Now, when you get non-replica choreography in A Chorus Line, it also means the lyrics in the introduction are different because the choreography isn't step, kick, kick, leap, step, touch. Again, like last year's production of 42nd Street, this is going to be touring alongside a summer residency at Sadler's Wells. A Chorus Line is going to be there between the 31st of July and the 25th of August. And if you've never seen A Chorus Line on stage, you simply have to. I'm not giving you a choice. You have to go and see A Chorus Line on stage. It's not just about dance. It's this hugely powerful narrative. It's a very strong book and fantastic songs by Marvin Hamlish and Ed Kleban. But if you have seen A Chorus Line, if you've seen the classic traditional replica A Chorus Line, go and see this one and prepare yourself for change. Now, right at the end of that last section, I mentioned touring. Now, here are some of the touring musicals which I think are the most exciting in 2024. Now, 2024 is a huge year for musicals on the touring circuit. We have Hamilton on its first ever UK tour. I got to see this recently in Manchester. A full review is coming very soon to my channel. I promise I'm going to tell you all about it. I did already reveal that it was one of my top shows of the year, so you know that it's good. You have to go see this on tour. This is probably the most expensive looking set you're going to see on tour because they are bringing you the full Hamilton experience, which is a big deal. For anything to be touring a Revolve in the UK is quite the undertaking, let me tell you. So this is going to be in Manchester through the 1st of March. It's in Manchester for a very long run. In 2024, it's then going to be travelling to Edinburgh, Bristol, Birmingham, Dublin, and Cardiff, which takes us through the end of the year, after which it's going to tour on to other venues, don't you worry. But if you don't live near any of those places, you might live near the touring dates for this next show. Come From Away. Just as acclaimed in its own right, beloved by audiences, Come From Away tells the story of the day after 9/11 and how the thousands of passengers of nearly 40 rerouted flights were taken in and looked after by the community of Gander, Newfoundland. Which I appreciate as a plot that doesn't sound like it would be conducive to musical theatre, but if you haven't seen Come From Away yet, you just have to take my word for it. This is a beautiful show, wonderfully staged. It's just another fantastic piece of musical theatre. It's opening in Leicester, again at the wonderful Curve Theatre, between the 1st and 9th of March. This one doing more traditional, shorter tour dates than Hamilton. It's then going to be in Liverpool later that month. It's going to the Wales Millennium Centre in Cardiff. It's doing Plymouth, Southampton, Oxford, Leeds, Birmingham, Hull, Dublin, Belfast, Ipswich, Sheffield, Llandudno, I believe. Apologies, Wales, if I pronounced that incorrectly. I probably did. Newcastle, Bristol, Aberdeen, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Nottingham, Wimbledon, Norwich, Wolverhampton, Canterbury, Chichester, Milton Keynes and Salford, which is a pretty decent coverage, so I don't think anyone has much of an excuse not to go and see Come From Away on tour this year. Speaking of big shows on tour, another that is once again flying around the UK is fan favourite Wicked. They are in Edinburgh right now, but they are going to be heading to the Bristol Hippodrome at the end of January, then the Birmingham Hippodrome, they love hippodromes apparently, then Bradford, Southampton, Liverpool, Dublin, Sunderland, Cardiff and Manchester in December. Now, I have never seen Wicked on tour. When it comes to the UK, I've only ever seen it in London at the Apollo Victoria Theatre, so I'm hoping to finally see Wicked on a UK tour for the first time. I don't know where I will actually see it, but hopefully I'll make it to one of those venues, and you can as well. Now, if those are going to be touring versions of the shows that you love and recognise, the next one might be a little bit different because it's a show that you love, but you won't necessarily recognise it. I'm being very cryptic there, but I am talking about the new non-replica tour of the musical Dear Evan Hansen. So I made a video all about this recently here on my channel. You can go and watch that to find out all of this news and what I'm talking about. But it was announced that the musical Dear Evan Hansen was going to tour the UK, but it wouldn't be the West End production that was touring around. AKA we're going to get new creatives, a new set design, new costumes, a new take on the material from a different director, possibly some reworked material. They hinted that it might be brought a little more up to date. We don't know what that means yet. We're going to get a new cast. It's all very exciting. It's going to be opening towards the end of 2024 at the Nottingham Playhouse and then touring to other venues. So it's in Nottingham for most of the month of September, then it's heading to the Curve Theatre in Leicester. It's a great year to live in Leicester, honestly. Then on to Brighton, Birmingham, Woking, Leeds, Liverpool, Sunderland and Oxford, although there is a suspicious Christmas gap. Either the tour won't be playing anywhere over Christmas or it has yet to announce its Christmas date. Stay tuned on that one. So we're getting towards the end of this list of recommendations, but I have 3 categories left. The next one is revivals of classic plays. And if you like playwrights like Henrik Ibsen and Arthur Miller and Eugene O'Neill, then I offer you revivals of an Ibsen, an Arthur Miller and a Eugene O'Neill. The Ibsen is An Enemy of the People, which will also be revived on Broadway this year, coincidentally, but the West End version is going to star former Doctor Who and original star of American Psycho, hello, Matt Smith. Matt, who has appeared a few times on stage but is better known for his screen work, a bold and committed actor, so his presence in this makes me quite excited about whatever the concept is going to be. This is going to be at the Duke of York's Theatre between the 6th of February and the 6th of April. Tickets are likely going to be hard to get. And this is probably the Ibsen play that I know the least, to the extent I thought this was a one-person show. I think because it's being revived in both the US and the UK, and both of the marketing approaches have been very like, this is the man who's doing this play, so I just didn't know there were other people in it. But Paul Hilton is going to be in this. Nigel Lindsay is going to be in this. It's a very strong supporting cast around Matt Smith, so I'm even more excited about this now. We have this poster where he's covered in ink. I guess, like I said, it's not telling me anything else about the play, but that's why I have to go and see it. Next up, I'm going to unhelpfully tell you about a play that is already sold out, but they may have returns available, so it is worth inquiring. Now, it takes an awful lot to get me interested in a new production of Arthur Miller's A View from the Bridge after I saw an incredible one a few years ago starring Mark Strong, but this regional revival starring Dominic West has me very intrigued. This is going to be playing at the Theatre Royal Bath for just a month between the 16th of February and the 16th of March. The same theatre where last year I saw an incredible production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf with similar glorious casting for a similarly short run. Dominic is going to be joined by Kate Fleetwood and Callum Howells. This is top tier casting for a great Arthur Miller play, and you quickly begin to understand why this sold out as quickly as it did. If you can get yourself a ticket to this, if I can get myself a ticket to this, let's try and be there. I will if you will. And then speaking of luxury casting and speaking of Succession stars, we have Brian Cox himself starring in a Eugene O'Neill play. He is going to be playing the patriarch of the family in Long Day's Journey into Night. I enjoy this play a lot, but to revive it, you need at least 2 actors of huge power. And he is going to be joined by Patricia Clarkson, who I last saw on stage in The Elephant Man, who I thought gave a deeply human, vulnerable, and charming performance. I'm very intrigued to see her playing Mary Tyrone, which I think is a spectacular role. So this is going to be at the Wyndham's Theatre between the 19th of March and the 8th of June, before Next to Normal moves in, which I think is hilarious, by the way, because Next to Normal is basically a rock musical version of Long Day's Journey into Night. It's not actually, but thematically, there's similarities, which if you didn't know anything about this play, tells you everything you need to know, I think. Now, I've been splitting everything into plays and musicals. Up next, we have a category of 3 shows that are kind of somewhere in between. The first of which is a show called Opening Night. Last seen in Shirley Valentine, West End leading Lady Sheridan Smith will be returning to the stage with a fantastic cast around her in a new show conceived by visionary director Ivo van Hove. Now, Ivo van Hove is a polarising figure within the theatre. He directed a big revival of West Side Story just before the pandemic. He was the director of last year's acclaimed production of A Little Life. And I would say if you're a fan of his work, you should absolutely go and see this show. And if you are actively not a fan of his work, then you should probably avoid this show, because I feel like this is going to be Ivo van Hove to the max, because he's not only directing the thing, he has conceived it and written the book as well. And it is a musical, I believe. It's going to feature music by Rufus Wainwright, of all people, who I enjoy, so that's very intriguing to me. But it doesn't feel like a musical with a capital M. We'll know more by the time that this opens, and we'll hear more by the time that it starts previews, but right now, I don't really know what this is going to be. If I had to guess, I would anticipate it's going to be this kind of like psychological thriller thing. The plot synopsis makes it sound somewhere between All About Eve and Sunset Boulevard. I don't think it will necessarily be easygoing. It might be a little bit harrowing, like a lot of his recent work. And I dare say, like Sunset Boulevard, there are going to be cameras on the stage. If all of that is not sounding like your theatrical cup of tea, maybe that one's not for you, but it's probably going to be hugely talked about. It might even be unmissable event theatre, who knows? Next up, if you enjoyed My Neighbor Totoro at the Barbican, get ready for the next Studio Ghibli film brought to the stage. This is going to be the Japanese language stage adaptation of Spirited Away. So this is going to be running at the immense London Coliseum between the 30th of April and the 24th of August this year. English subtitles or surtitles are going to be visible from every seat, but it promises a huge visual spectacle. It's been called a masterpiece of visual storytelling. It's already been staged before outside of the UK and screened internationally, so you can definitely go online and get a sense of what this production looks like and the kind of spectacle that it's going to deliver. I am hugely nostalgic about the film. I love this film. This is probably my favourite Studio Ghibli film because I'm basic like that. But I love it. I think Spirited Away is great, and I loved My Neighbor Totoro knowing comparatively less about that original film, so I think I'm going to really have a fantastic time at this. Again, if I actually get to see it, because it is sold very, very well, unsurprisingly. I feel like producers are just now waking to the realization that things like Studio Ghibli films and things like Death Note from anime and manga are actually very popular in the UK. Now this next one I've been told is not a musical, but you'll understand why I put it in this category. This is the stage adaptation of the Academy Award winning 2011 silent film The Artist. And few things have ever made more sense theatrically to me than when I found out this was being brought to the stage by choreographer Drew McConey. One of the brightest lights in choreography in the UK right now. He's been attached to so many fantastic productions. I recently saw his queer reimagining of The Nutcracker at the South Bank Centre and just loved it. He is going to be the next artistic director of one of my favourite venues, Regent's Park Open Air Theatre, but he's keeping himself very busy because alongside all of that, he is directing, choreographing, co-adapting this stage version of The Artist, which stars perfectly Robbie Fairchild, of An American in Paris, of the Cats movie, let's not talk about that, but someone who I think is hugely talented. This is just all the right names being involved in this project. This surely has a substantial London or New York based life further down the run. Right now we know that it is going to be getting a 2-week production in Plymouth at the Theatre Royal Plymouth, and I will tell you that I heard from someone who saw the workshop of this, it's the best workshop they had ever seen. And this person sees a lot of workshops, so I'm very excited about this one. Will I sneak down to Plymouth to see it on what is clearly a little bit of a pre-West End run before it makes its way to town? I don't know, but this could be fantastic. I'm just realizing I haven't even told you what it's about. I don't know what it's about. I haven't seen the film, but this is all of the right ingredients for success, don't you think? Finally, we are on to my last category, which is musical revivals. Now, revivals of musicals have been some of the most successful and acclaimed and award-winning productions in recent British history. Think of Cabaret at the Kit Kat Club, think of Sunset Boulevard at the Savoy. And this year promises some very exciting additions to that list. As well as this first offering, which is not a full run, but is a concert version of a show I have loved and wanted to see for the longest time, which is why I'm including it on this list. I am talking about Sideshow. So this is receiving a one-night-only concert staging at the iconic London Palladium, starring Rachel Tucker and Louise Dearman, who, if you didn't know, starred alongside each other in Wicked as Elphaba and Glinda, with Louise later going on to become the first performer to play both Elphaba and Glinda when she returned to the show. But they are both powerhouse vocalists, phenomenal actresses, and real friends, which is going to make this even more special, as well as vocally thrilling. This score is just insane. One of my favourites. If you haven't listened to the original cast recording with Alice Ripley and Emily Skinner, go and listen to it. Get excited for this version. This is going to be on Sunday the 3rd of March, and short of wild horses dragging me away from the theatre, you will also see me there. Then later this year, we have an iconic show returning to the London stage. Now, when someone asked me recently what show I was most excited for in 2024, I panicked, couldn't think of anything else, and said this. But also I stand by this answer, because while I don't think it's necessarily going to be the most critically acclaimed or, you know, sophisticated show of 2024, it's probably the one I'm the most excited about. I am talking about Starlight Express. And I've talked about this being a guilty pleasure show before. I feel like a lot of people remember this fondly from their childhoods, and I'm sensing a lot of excitement and anticipation for this show returning to London. It's sold very well already. It's going to be going to the Troubadour Theatre in Wembley Park, where Newsies was playing, but that being a very adaptable space, they are reworking the auditorium to allow for some exciting, as yet not really revealed things. We might have moving seats, that's been talked about. We have potentially an exciting track going around the audience like the original version of this show had at the Apollo Victoria. I'm very excited, and I'm also excited because of the creatives attached. I'm excited for Gabriella Slade costumes in Starlight Express. I'm excited for Luke Shepherd direction of Starlight Express. I am still hoping that with him having just worked on the Little Big Things, that it's occurred to him that he could incorporate wheelchair users into the cast of this show very easily, and that would be a really great and positive thing to do. I am hoping that we get some kind of representation akin to that. But like, this is the closest I will ever get to wanting to go to the Olympics. This is my Olympics right here, is going to see Starlight Express on stage. And then finally, one for the classic musical lovers. We have a glorious musical returning to London with a pretty glorious cast. I'm talking about the long-awaited, pandemic-postponed production of Hello Dolly. Now, this was meant to be coming at the Adelphi Theatre in 2020. I remember marking my calendar. I might even have had tickets, actually, now that I think about it. But when everything was getting cancelled and postponed, this unfortunately overlapped with Imelda Staunton's filming obligations for The Crown, where she has been playing Queen Elizabeth II on its 2 most recent seasons. Filming for that has, however, come to an end, making her free to return to the London stage. And after acclaimed performances as Rose in Gypsy and Mrs. Lovett in Sweeney Todd, she is going to be taking on another huge musical theatre role, the matchmaker Dolly Levi. Now, I know you're going to tell me off in the comments for this one, but I have never seen Hello Dolly on stage. I've never really had the opportunity because we haven't had a major revival of it here in the UK in my theatre going years, so I'm very excited to finally get to see this on stage, and it's a prestigious cast joining Imelda Staunton, most of whom were announced in 2020 and will still be doing the show, which is fantastic because, you know, scheduling obligations and things. Jenna Russell is going to be in this, who I will see in anything. We also have Andy Nyman, who I loved sincerely in Fiddler on the Roof. We have Harry Heppel and Tyrone Huntley, both fantastic performers. And given that Back to the Future is now at the Adelphi and not planning to go anywhere anytime soon, this is now going to be opening instead in the summer of 2024 at the London Palladium, making it even more glorious, I think. Which finally brings me to the end of that list. So if you like the sound of any of those shows, make sure you go and book tickets, support theatre in the UK in 2024, and hopefully have a wonderful time in the process. I hope I have steered you to some good recommendations. I believe wholeheartedly in each and every one of these shows. Hopefully I will get to see all of them myself, and hopefully you will see review videos here on my channel. So like I said, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss all of these videos coming this year. Now, if any of you have productions that you're looking forward to in 2024, drop them in the comments down below. Let's all share recommendations with each other. What shows are you most looking forward to seeing, and what have you already got booked? Thank you for watching this video. I hope that you've enjoyed, and I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a stagey day.
For 10 more seconds, I'm Mickey Joe Theatre. Oh my god, hey, thanks for watching, have a stagey day. Subscribe!